until all have heard.
Before we dive in today, a quick word from our 2025 corporate sponsor, Kamaj Container Lines. When Friends in Action ships equipment, tools, and supplies to mission fields around the world, we need a partner who understands the complexity and the logistics of international shipping. Kamaj Container Lines brings nearly 3 decades of global shipping experience by air and by sea to make sure the right resources get to the right places so that the work of the gospel can move forward. Learn more at shipkamaj.com. That's shipkamaj.com. Welcome to the FIA podcast. I'm your host, Andy Bachert, and if you've been with us since season 1, thank you. We built something together in that first season, and today we're launching season 2. This season, we want to focus on the people who show up, just ordinary men and women, tradespeople, welders, first-time travelers who said yes to a short-term missions team. And they came back, changed. If you've ever wondered whether someone like yourself could do something like this season is for you. So today's episode is a great place to start. And honestly, it's already a little special. One of our guests today drove and then flew in from Washington Island, Wisconsin, just to sit here in this room and record with us. That tells you something about who he is. We'll get to this in a minute, but let me introduce all 3 of our guests today. Steve is from Washington Island, Wisconsin, which, if you don't know, is a small island community in Lake Michigan, accessible only by ferry. He's a tradesman, a craftsman, a builder, the kind of guy who can look at a problem and just solve it with his hands. Steve, welcome to the FIA podcast. We appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Thanks a lot, Andy. It's nice to be here, buddy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Second up is Darren. Darren is a local to us here at FIA headquarters. He owns his own welding and fabrication business. And I'll be honest, when I was putting this team together, Darren was my first phone call. He's also not a stranger to this kind of work. He's been to West Africa, Uganda, and now Papua New Guinea. Darren, good to have you here.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. Appreciate the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the conversation and the great fellowship together.
Yeah, I know oftentimes when I was in my welding business, I would be making a different kind of phone call to you, needing your help. Yeah. Now I need your help with a podcast, so I appreciate you being here.
No problem.
And then we have Tom. Tom is from Pennsylvania, a little bit north of our headquarters here. And what makes Tom's story a little bit different is that this trip wasn't just about the project for him. Tom already knew some of the Ethnos 360 missionaries serving in Papua New Guinea. So when this team came together, he wasn't just saying yes to building a hangar. He was saying yes to serving people he already cared about. Tom, that's a unique way to come into the trip like this. So tell us about your connection.
Well, the missionaries that I was meeting, or that I knew, were the Lessicas. Travis is a pilot, and then Becky is involved with the ministry there in Papua New Guinea. And I've known them for quite some time at their marriage, and Becky was in Africa prior to this, and my wife went to Africa to visit her in the village with African Inland Mission. And then after her marriage, she and her husband made their way to Papua New Guinea. And Travis and Becky contacted me about this hangar project, and thought might be good for me to go on that. And one thing led to another, and then I contacted Andy and said I was interested.
Yeah, so interesting enough, I was just talking to Jeff Glessner just the other day, and he was out on a bush build for missionaries. He took a small team out, and Travis actually flew them out there. He took a picture of the pilot, kind of the side of it, and I'm like, that's Travis. He's flying there, because I think he was, when I was over there, at least surveying the project, he was still in training, but now he's out flying. So it's great to see that progress too. So it's really neat that you had more of a personal tug to this project, which is a really cool connection. So I want to start off kind of a question for all 3 of you, and you can answer in whatever order you'd like. So I want to start with something simple. Before you ever joined a short-term missions trip, what was your mental picture of those teams that were? How did they look mentally? What did you think it was going to be like? And when you heard mission trip, what kind of person did you imagine goes on those type of trips?
I guess for me, growing up, I didn't have too many opportunities to go on mission trips. Played some college football, different things like that, and got into the trades. But I always thought of them as like trying to teach people how to grow food, how to build their temporary shelters, and things like that. Kind of close, but there was far more need where we went after I got there. It was just eye-opening and mind-blowing at the same time. How unsupported people almost by their own countries, how much of an impact we can make in such a short time. And just by being there, smiling at them, say morning, abanoon.
Abanoon, yeah.
What do you think, Darren?
Oh, yeah, that was great. That was great. So before I went on my first missions trip, I always thought that I thought there's no way I can go on a missions trip. I'm not the guy that can stand up in the front of the room and be the Bible teacher and teach the Bible. I'm not the front and center guy. That's just, I get nervous in those situations, and, it's just not me. I can't do that. That's not, so I guess I'm just not, fit for this or set out for this. And then you kept asking me to go, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to go.
And I keep asking.
And you do keep asking, which I appreciate that too, because after going a couple of times, now I know what it's like. But when we went that first time, I found out that you're not the guy that's front and center. You don't have to be that guy. That people like us that have skills and trade skills, we can go and we can help the missionaries that are stationed in the different parts of the world where we're going, help them with their infrastructure and kind of behind the scenes, but yet still be a part of fellowship with each other when we're there as well. And so after my first trip, I was like, yeah, I can do this. I enjoy this. This is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Tom, how about you?
For myself, I've never been on a mission trip like this. When I was thinking of mission trips, I was thinking, okay, you do a little work project in the morning, and then you have like a VBS in the afternoon. And so those have, for myself, I'm more wanting to do the work project. That's where I feel comfortable. And with this particular trip, for me, it was really exciting because we were focused on a project, and it wasn't focused on us and as a group who were there temporarily, and we were going to be there for a couple weeks and then we're leaving. And it wasn't where we were going to share the gospel and bring all these people to Christ, but we were there to help facilitate the missionaries who are going to be there long term, to bring the gospel to the different tribes. And this has probably been one of the most meaningful mission trips I've ever been on. One, with how much we got done and how much God enabled us to get done. And two, the impact that has had. I don't know if you mind if I share just a little bit.
Certainly.
So I lead a group of men in a Bible study, and we're doing Nehemiah right now. And on that first week in March, which would have been a year ago that we came back from our trip, I was beginning the book of Nehemiah, and it was amazing. In Nehemiah, they had, they were 90 years after they had returned from exile at this point. And I was thinking about the hangar project, and 30 years later, we got to experience almost the completion of that. And it was just really exciting to see that. It was perseverance and patience. And it was a witness to me with the different missionaries how they persevered through that process, and then we were able to be a part of that finishing touch.
Yeah, and on that point, none of us had any idea what we were finishing up. The groundwork that was put in, the prayers, the funding, the time, and because we were putting the metal on something, everyone, that's what we can see. Thank you. And, thank the Lord and thank all the people that came before us,
That's right.
Yeah, before I move on to my next question, I want to unpack a little bit because you guys touched on what the project actually was. So this project team went out last year in efforts to build an aviation hangar in Papua New Guinea for NTM Aviation. So NTM Aviation serves bush villages and bush missionaries through taking small Kodiak planes and choppers to get out into the hard to reach areas. Oftentimes they're landing on bush airstrips with not a lot of room, and also they're flying choppers into some pretty tight areas as well. And they do that to accelerate the gospel, and not just the gospel, but they can get people in and out in case of medical emergencies. They can help deliver supplies out to these villages that are developing as well. So it's a way to accelerate the gospel. And that's why FIA felt so compelled in 2024 after we surveyed the project and saw what a God-sized project this was, a large aviation hangar to add to their fleet there in Papua New Guinea. And this was a project that was at least 20 plus years kind of in development, but it was actually packed away in a container for most of those years. And it seemed like, again, God's timing is sovereign. And we see that time and time again. But we'll get into the little bit of the story of just how God led from the end of 2024 when I was there to survey basically an area of ground to now what is an operating aviation hangar. And it's an amazing story as we unpack it here today. So, Steve, I invited you at first for the podcast, and your personality and the way you lead and you speak into other men, you automatically wanted to get more guys here for the podcast to sit in with you because you recognize that God used all of you on this project.
Well, every one of us showed up with our servant's heart. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and this was a good opportunity because it gives a little bit of dynamics. Darren, you're a local guy. Tom, this was your first missions trip. And Steve, back to you. I want to point this out. So I remember when I got a phone call from you at one point, and you're like, hey, Paul had told me about Friends in Action. I'm really interested, but I don't think I can ever do anything internationally. I want to help you domestically, and, this is awful big to go international. So what can you do domestically? So we shared a little bit about how we serve in Missouri with Ethnos 360. And it kind of, we stayed connected, but nothing. Mm-hmm. But then I get a phone call and you're like, I'm going to Papua New Guinea. I'm like, what, Steve? So tell me about that. Tell me about how God kind of spoke to you from someone I never thought you'd even, because you offered to go to Papua New Guinea. And tell me about how God was moving you in your life to really stretch your comfort level to be able to go on the other side of the world, really.
Well, it's kind of a simple answer. And there's a family, Paul and Paula, who were missionaries over there for 13 years, and they adopted one of the nationals from over there, brought him back to Chicago, and fortunately, Paul is one of my, mentors, one of the godly men I look up to up on Washington Island, part of our church. When I was building a subdivision of housing, him and one other guy would show up about every other day, back up their cars, open a cooler. Hey, Steve, can we get you a sandwich and a bottle of water? Absolutely, buddy. And they're like, oh my gosh, somebody said, yeah. And then they're like, do you mind if we pray for you? Well, absolutely. Only if I can pray for you too, And then, so like 7, 8 years ago, we all started being just great, great friends. And Paul kept saying, you're going to be the one someday. You're going to be the one. And, when I was talking to you, there was a little bit of fear of, well, I don't know, because we have family, we have friends that say, why would you go to another country? It's not safe there or whatever, And so after showing my mom enough Prime Video, one's Papua New Guinea where nobody has any guns or anything, and all the different tribes there. So then it was okay. So, God just put it all together. It's a lot of prayer, a lot of support. Men that I've known since I was 15, 18 years old, families, Mike, Linda Swan, a lot of the guys on the fire department where I'm at, and, just a whole community of support. And that's what we all need, is that real good community of support. And the Bethel Church, I'm a trustee there. It's an EV-free church up on Washington Island. I started going to youth group there when I was like 12 years old, so just good roots, good dirt, and good support,
Yeah.
Yep. There. So when I told Paul, well, he brought me down to the Friends in Action banquet, and I got to actually meet
one of the Illinois banquets. Okay.
Yeah. Meet Matt Durkee and listen to Levi's. He had a show about what he was doing over in Vanuatu. I could just feel the Lord moving in me, and
That's
time to go big or go home. Right?
There you go, Emily. That's the gold nugget for this episode. Go big or go home. So Darren, we've been friends for a long time, and you've trusted me from the first time I've asked you to go out on a short-term mission trip. So you've done this a few times, West Africa and Uganda. What were your expectations maybe for this trip, or did it look a little different coming from a veteran you've traveled with us before?
Well, each trip you take, I've learned now after 3 times of this, each trip has its own unique challenges and kind of outlooks. But in general, sometimes, most of the time, at least so far, you're not really sure what you're going to get into when you get there, because you're not sure if you're going into a place where there's you can get tools and materials are readily accessible. I mean, no matter where you go, there's not going to be a Home Depot down the street, that's for sure. So you got to adapt and overcome, and in each specific trip, and that's just the mindset that I've learned that you have to be able to do. You got to be flexible. You have to be flexible to get the stuff done. What you're supposed to get done, and so. As far as the things that get easier over time is the travel, getting ready for the travel, getting packed up. What are the things you need to take? For sure, once you get your passport and stuff done, that makes it pretty easy for the next time too, if you haven't had it. But each trip is unique in its own way. So you can plan to a point, but then you also have to be ready to be flexible as well during the trip. So yeah.
Good. Tom, I want to circle back to something that you mentioned earlier. You knew some missionaries on the ground there. So when you showed up to the job site, you got a chance to reunite with them, but you actually saw their world. You saw the context that maybe you've read about in their newsletters, or maybe shared from messages back and forth from them. What was it like for you? Did it match your expectations? Was there things that surprised you?
Andy, I'll be honest with you. I never had any real. I had a few pictures of where they were, but I could never really put it. Once you get into actually land and you see what it's like, then you realize, okay, that's nothing what I was imagining.
Right.
And the one thing that really stood out to me. So you have the pilots, you have the mechanics, you have those who are doing the carpentry, going out and building the homes in the bush. One of the things I learned was that every single one of them is vital to the sharing of the gospel and the planting of the church. And I've been getting letters from Becky and Travis, and they sincerely see themselves as a part of that process. One story that always sticks out to me. I had a lot of stories, but one of the days we would begin each day in prayer, and this one particular day, we joined the pilots and the mechanics in the hangar to pray. And one of the technicians was sharing how a few days before they had brought a woman in from the bush. And one of the things, I hope you don't mind me sharing.
Please do.
There's a lot of witchcraft, and they believe in witches. And so if something bad happened in the village, they would find out, and they would say, okay, what witch was cursing somebody or put a curse on somebody. And then it was typically a woman, and they would seek that person out, and then they would kill that person. Mm-hmm. Well, this one person, she was pointed out by somebody, something had happened, and the men of the village came, and they literally just hacked her away with machetes and arrows and left her to die. Mm-hmm. Well, the missionaries came across her and found her, And immediately they sent a plane out, helicopter and a plane, and they flew her back to the hospital. And while we're in that prayer time, this technician from his heart, he just was yearning for this woman to come to Christ, and that through this experience she would turn to Jesus. And that really impacted me, that he wasn't out there, but he is just as much a part of this ministry as the ones who are out in that village.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great connection. Oftentimes people think, and I think Darren, you might have mentioned it earlier on, the part we play, whether it's the one standing up in front and sharing the gospel, preaching or planning that church, but even to the pilots and to the mechanics, all those things are pieces in where God has each one of us in ministry to help accelerate the gospel. The additional prayers from that group that morning, that's real. That's real to hear a story like that, and it really puts life into why God has called these pilots to be part of ministry. They're not just flying planes. They're part of the lifeline and part of the gospel work, right there in front of them. So I appreciate you sharing that, Tom. Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks. So I want to kind of look at now the way teams come together sometimes at Friends in Action. Your team in particular, Rob Donnelly, our full-time mechanic, he went out and led your team. So he was local here, of course, and Darren and Tom, you're local to Pennsylvania. But really, this was a team of misfits, honestly. People, you guys had guys from Canada on the team, from out west. You're from Wisconsin, so help me unpack it, and this is for either of you, any of you, or all of you even. Help me unpack really, did you have some anxiety maybe about what that would look like? This was a big project, and I'm sure Emily is going to have some pictures of the hangar project as we talk through this podcast, so the audience can see the immensity of this project. But you were basically all strangers. We may have met once or twice on a Teams meeting or a Zoom meeting just to get to know each other. But did you have any anxiety about what that was going to look like once you basically pull all these strangers together to get a single focused project done?
Well, for me, I just knew I needed to be showing up with, my servant's heart. But I met Dale first in the airport, so then I picked up my first guy that I was traveling with, and that was in Australia. And then finally we got to Port Moresby, and I think we met up with one or two more people there. And then by the time as the signs in the airport for which way and how long the planes would get less digitalized and more to just paper writing on a thing. Our last stop was Goroka, this, gate 12, and going on smaller planes, so I guess I knew I would be meeting a lot of guys. I figured they'd be sending some construction guys. The one of the men that impressed me the most, though, wasn't a construction guy. He was he's our accountant from Yellowknife, and I tell you what, he really cared so much to be there. We taught him how to drive the forklift. Tom and Darren kind of took part of the crew, and him and Rob were already in the lead with that part. And gosh, me and Tom and Joel, we all decided to clean up, and I thought I was following them. But eventually people were following us, and you just divide the people and conquer.
Yeah. Tom, you were kind of newer to this. Did you have any thoughts going into this, not really knowing anybody, or even going out on a team with us before?
Well, again, this was the first, and there was a little bit of. So I've never done steel construction before. Mine's just been framing, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. And so I during our Zoom meetings, in times I've led projects, I just wanted to make sure there was somebody who knew what was going on. And Darren I didn't know how much Steve knew, but I knew Darren. When Darren, I think he came into the second Zoom meeting. After the first Zoom meeting, I was like, Anybody knows what's going on here. But Darren came in, and I felt a little bit more confident that, okay, we have somebody who's going to be leading us here and giving us some direction.
Yeah.
And Jeff and Brian over there.
Oh, they were great.
I mean, they are really the wheels on the ground.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
the amazing things they could come back with. And, you know.
Those guys they had everything prepped for us over there, ready to go. I mean, they got equipment for us that, I mean, I had no idea how we were going to set the steel when we get over there, right? You know, that's one of the things when you go on these trips, you can only plan so much, right? And you said about putting a building up, and I know we talked, and I really wanted to go to Uganda. It was between Uganda, Papua New Guinea, and we talked, and we thought, okay, well, you go to Uganda, and I'll go to Papua New Guinea. That way we can kind of divide our time and get more things done. And so I may do steel erection, but I never put up one of these buildings before, and these guys don't know that. They're just like, oh, they're into steel erection. Okay. So we get over there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, because we're used to working with heavy gauge, you know, beams,
structural steel,
structural steel, right? We get over there, and this thing's made of like 10 gauge or 8 gauge material that's just formed, and I'm like, okay, well, yeah, I put buildings up, but I never did anything like this before.
It was even different than a pre-engineered building.
It was, and that's the thing.
Even the columns and stuff were all formed, right?
Yeah, they were all formed like channels, and it was different. And I got there, I'm thinking, oh man, okay, let's see how this goes. And we go to put the first frame up. I remember it. I don't think everyone was there at this particular point, but we go to put the very first frame up, and I'm like, oh my God. We go to raise it, and the whole thing's like,
that's the one. I think we have a picture. We have a picture of it kind of hanging there by the crane.
Yeah, and it's all twisting. I'm like, oh, well, it's either going to go really good or it's going to fail right away. So it got up, man. We put it up and braced it, and I'm like, yes, now we can go. But back to the guys, you know, as far as the crew that you have, I had no idea. Like I said, I put steel up. I never put one of these buildings up. I never put siding or spouting or anything up. So I'm thinking, well, I can put the frame up, but I don't know about the spouting and the siding and stuff like that. And I talked to you guys, and we get there, and these guys here have done spouting and siding, and the other guys, I'm like, this is great. That's awesome. This is the best team we could ever have. I know a little bit. These guys know the rest. And together, when we worked together, it was so much fun. Mm-hmm. It was so much fun working together, fellowshipping together. Mm-hmm. And I love these guys. It was awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. That's good. So walk me through, or walk the audience through what the day looked like from start to finish. From getting up in the morning, you guys were in Lapalo there in the guest house. Great hospitality there on the station. Starting in the morning, then getting to the job site, working with some of the PNG citizens, and then how you closed out the night. Can either any of you kind of share what that day looked like for you?
I guess I'll start out on that one. Okay. I think the most important thing for all of us is that Garoka is a fine producer of fine coffee. So that's all about respect to the crew. Whoever was up first, turn on the coffee pot. Yep. And then 2 or 3 at a time. And then they also have, like, 26 or 30 different types of bananas?
There was a bunch.
It's a huge number. So there was banana bread every single day, and one man doesn't want coffee and banana bread every single day, you know. So
that's a good plug for Garoka Coffee Company. I think Rob brought like 20 or 30 pounds home for me. So.
Yeah. But and then as everyone trickles in the morning, we all got together and we did a study of Ephesians while we were over there, which is a great study for men, and the coolers were all packed up, and we could grab whatever extra we needed and load up, and well, I'll let you tell the rest of the day till lunchtime, eh?
Well, it's great having you guys here because sometimes I forget about some of this stuff, right? So it's good to bring up some of those things, yeah.
Well, Darren don't drink coffee, so he don't.
Yeah, the coffee thing. But the solos, I remember the solos.
Oh yeah,
right.
Solos
right
are good.
there, right back at you.
Yeah.
You were trying to find them on Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I tried to find them yesterday on Amazon because thinking about this, I was thinking, so Joel, you remember that, Joel, if you're watching this, remember them solos, Joel. But Yeah, so the time in the morning, when we start out in the morning, and the fellowship we had in the morning, where we got together, we prayed together in the morning, we read our Bible together in the morning, and just had that special time together it's always a great time or a great way to start your day, right? So just like he said, then we got to, then they drove us to the hangar, and like Tom said earlier, we prayed every morning before we started, for our day, and then we got to work, and then so we worked, and we each had our tasks that we had throughout the day, specific days, specific tasks. Got that done, and then we got to sit down and eat lunch with everything that they packed for us. They packed us a lunch every day, like Steve said about putting them in the cooler. So we got to eat lunch from there, and then I'll let you finish up.
Like I said earlier that I was not in steel construction, but I felt like everybody on the team was willing to. This is how you do it. Let me show you how to do it. So I was with Steve the first couple days, and we were up on the forklift on the basket, and and he would just, if I wasn't doing it right or there was another technique, he was more than willing to explain to me, hey, try it this way, it might be better. And I think that was true for all of us, and everybody found I wouldn't say a role, but a particular thing that they could do to contribute. We had an older Dale, he was running the forklift, and he might have been, some of the times, he couldn't have done the heavy lifting or stuff, but he found his place driving that and lifting us up and getting us to certain places. So I felt like every day, I've been on trips where, this person's just been sitting around all day. What did they do? They didn't do anything. I felt like everybody contributed every day, and even though our skill sets were so different.
No, that's great. That's great. So did all three of you get there at a different time, right?
Yeah.
Because of the flight logistics and storms and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so Darren, were you and Rob the first ones on the ground?
We were the last ones, Rob and I.
Oh, Rob and you were. Darren, were you first on the
So
ground?
I was first, and then, Tice and I got there at the same time. Tice and I were there at the same time. We got there the same day. We got picked up at the hotel, went over to the job site. Jeff and Brian were showing us the hotel, not the hotel, but the job site. And we were talking, and we dropped our bags and just went to work. We didn't even go back to Lapalo and put our bags in the guest house or anything. We just started working right there.
So let's unpack that a little bit. So you were the first one there, then I guess to start shaking out the container, getting your head wrapped around kind of what you guys are in for. What went through your head? What were your first thoughts when you looked at the size of the project too? Remind the audience how large it was. As far as the hangar itself.
Oh, how big was it, guys?
60, was 90.
I thought it was 90.
60 by 90 and 24. I'm trying to do
convert the.
Yeah, I think
that's
it
why I
was
was
24 high, 27 high, and
I
think it was 60 by 90.
60
Yeah,
by 90.
so-
Okay, so that's a large building for a group of misfits to put together.
Yeah, a bunch of guys who just come together, and you don't really. We don't really know what we're doing. We had to get the instructions out and go through everything and just kind of shake everything out first of all and see which pieces were what and spread everything out, and then figure out how we were going to build the trusses first of all, because we had to build the columns and the trusses all in one piece. They were all tied together, so we had to figure out how we were going to lay it down, with the space that we had. And plus, you got to remember, this is an airplane hangar at an airport,
Active airport.
an active airport.
Yeah.
So that was going in. That was my first thought, man.
And you're working right next to their smaller hangar where they're coming in and out of all day long.
Yeah. So back here in the States, there's so many regulations you got to go through to put a crane up in the air.
You're right.
When you're
You're
working
right.
at an airport. Well, we get over there. And I guess there's not as many regulations because we had the crane sticking up in the air.
Yeah.
Although not till later in the, a couple days into it. But it was, there's a lot of logistics that had to go there. And just, it took us at least a day probably to just get everything out of the container, right?
Mm-hmm.
Between, was it 2 containers?
Yeah,
Yep,
two.
two.
2 containers full of stuff. So, Yeah, I mean, it's you just had to be patient, but we got it done, and once we got a system down, then it went smooth. I felt like it went smooth, at least with all the guys there.
Yeah. So a 60 foot by 90 foot by like 27, 30 feet high. Something had to have gone sideways. You've had to improvise in some way, I'm sure. I mean, you're in Papua New Guinea. Praise the Lord when there was a crane available, because that was one of our challenges when we surveyed the project. Like, where can we get something to pick these things? But can you guys kind of share maybe some of those challenges, how you work through them as a team to overcome that?
Well, the first challenge when I was landing was that I saw these guys already had that first end one up, and I knew that the Canadians were with them, so it was a good thing because they all needed to be converted.
Okay. I was wondering where you're going with that.
We took all our tape measures. Anybody that brought a regular tape measure and threw it in the garbage can.
Okay, so that's why you were glad Canadians were there, so they could do the metric system.
Yeah,
okay, good.
You were relying on them a lot.
Yeah. That's true. I forgot about the metric thing going on. Yeah, because oh man, that was giving me a headache.
Yeah, it didn't pay to try to compare, but yeah.
As far as the installation of it, anything sideways, anything?
I remember when we were putting up we had gotten the trusses up, and we had already done the walls for shear strength, and so we're getting ready to put the roof panels up. And as we were lifting those things are flexing, and the big concern was they were just going to bend right down the middle. And so we had to. These guys came up with a rig something for the crane to support that underneath, and because they were 20 foot, over 20 feet long.
Yeah,
they were
closer to
long,
30 foot.
And they were doing like
in between two lift points. Yeah.
And then once we started getting those loaded up, gosh, that might have been like the third or fourth day. And then we got those all laid out, and the guy moved the crane once to the front, once to the back, and we were golden.
The amazing thing, really, truly, though, to me, is that every single day it would kind of rain all night long, and like 2 hours before we'd have to start working, it would give it plenty of time to dry off.
Yep.
And it would start to drizzle a little at lunchtime. We knew the crane was coming after lunch. It would you'd see the clouds just getting pushed back behind all the mile-high ridges around us, and then we'd get our work done, and then by the time we'd get home for supper, most of the time it would be downpouring again. And but you saw the Lord working in the weather more than anything. If you ask me, like that's the rainy season.
Yeah, I sent pictures back to people who had supported me, and and I one day there was a picture, and I commented on what Steve just said is. We were in the rainy season, but you could see the rain around the valley except where we were. And this one day, there was a rainbow out there, and then behind it, you could see the storm coming. Oh, wow. And it might have been the day when Jose, he was the crane operator, was on the second day. I think it was the last day of the trusses. And just as he's putting it down, the rains came, and we had gotten it done. So
Wow.
Yeah. I remember that, guys. God was so good in that particular with that, because we're the airport's kind of, I'm going to call it in a bowl, right? Mm-hmm. There's mountains pretty much all around us, and we're kind of in a bowl, in a valley there, and God just. When the rains came, he just took the rains were coming then, and he just pushed them to the side for
awesome.
us until the very last day. Remember when we had the roof on? The roof was on, and I don't know if the gutters were up, but everything was on. And then finally, it was almost like, okay, guys, you got it all together. Now we're going to test and see if it's leaking at all. So he just downpours, and it was so good. We had some work on just a couple spots, but it was like, that's the perfect time. Perfect timing.
So it never rained like that while you were working on it at all?
We actually left the end caps off the eaves because we were afraid they would overflow because there weren't
Yes,
any
that's right.
downspouts yet.
That's right.
And when it started downpouring, that water was shooting out the ends of those about 20 feet each way.
That's right. That's right. So it was just perfect.
So for 2 weeks, it didn't rain like that, and then you guys get it all buttoned up and dried in, other than, of course, the front door, which was coming at a later date. But
Yeah.
and then the rain's let loose.
Like really let loose.
That's awesome.
We had just finished the roof.
Yeah.
Got the ridge cap on and the gutters, and
We all
the end of
stood
the day,
inside.
It
And,
wasn't even the end of the day, and it just started pouring.
yeah.
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 That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's a God story right there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Certainly.
All right, so let me shift gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit more about the cultural piece of Papua New Guinea. People that may have never experienced an international trip or even thought of going to a different country. I think people can get a picture of what you guys were doing from the work side of things. But stepping into Papua New Guinea, and I remember my first time when we surveyed this project, was my first time in Papua New Guinea. And it was something new completely for me, just culturally and environmentally and things like that. When you guys stepped out of the plane and landed and just kind of knew you were there, like what was some of your first thoughts?
My first thought was, Dale, wait up. Don't leave me here by myself. Because he had been there already or something. Because off he went. So, but everyone was so happy to see you. That's what got my attention off the go, was just how welcoming everyone in there was. Smiling and saying hi. And,
Darren, how about you?
Well, this was, flying into PNG from Australia, from Brisbane, right over. First of all, you get to see the coral reef, or was it the Great Barrier Reef?
Mm-hmm.
The Great Barrier.
Great Barrier Reef, portions of it on the way over, which is cool. And then you end up in Port Moresby, and you just see the landscape around it. It was just so lush and beautiful where we were, in Port Moresby. And then from Port Moresby over to Goroka, it got even better because we're up in the highlands up there in Goroka. And it was even more beautiful as you started flying inland. And it's just with the flowers that are there, the natural beauty of the flowers. They don't necessarily plant the flowers. It's just part of the landscape. It's just part of the environment there. And it's just beautiful. You see just sprawling fields of beautiful yellow and blues and pinks and different things like that of the flowers that are up there, especially when we went on the hike the one day. And so that's kind of what stuck out to me when we first got there.
Good. Tom, anything for you?
I think what stuck out, Rob and I landed at the international terminal, and then our flight wasn't until the next day, and then we showed up the next day in the morning. So when we got out of the international terminal, it was very orderly. There was a shuttle there to take us to our accommodations. And then they dropped us off the next day, and it was just chaos. And we got into this line, and nobody spoke English. And so Rob and I and there's no order or anything, and they won't let anybody into the airport. And there's a bunch of these security guys. And so one of the security guys waved us over, and I don't know what we said, but he said, "Stand here," or he pointed, and then he moved us on, and we just moved ahead of certain people, and all these other people are in this line yelling and upset, and then we moved into another line, and then we got into the terminal, and it was just chaos. And I mean, there's just lines everywhere. We had no idea. So we got into this one line, and we saw Goroka, and we were hoping that was our flight, and then we're waiting, and then all these people are cutting in because they knew the guy who was leading everything, telling everybody where to go. They obviously had either a relative or a friend, and he would say, "Oh, hey, come on up." And we weren't a part of that, and so I was like, "We're gonna miss our flight. We're gonna miss our flight."
You guys probably stood out a little bit in that line, huh?
But it all worked out. We got there, so yeah.
Good. So, talk to me a little bit about any interesting foods you guys had to experience. You got to experience in Papua New Guinea, part of the cultural piece. You guys get a chance to try anything like that?
The fruit was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I've never experienced fruit like that, and so I told my wife we got to go back just for the fruit. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The fruit. Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Just passion fruit everywhere. I mean, you'd walk out of one door, there'd be a cluster of bananas. You walk out to the next one, there'd be pineapple growing. And I learned it takes 2 years to grow a pineapple over there.
they would. There was a indigenous woman who worked at the guest house, and I guess she did the cooking and the washing. I don't remember her name. But she would go out and harvest these bananas, and so I came back this one day from work, and they had a picnic table, and the entire picnic table was just covered with bunches of bananas just waiting to be eaten.
Oh, my.
And so it was really neat.
Yeah. Was the passion fruit the stuff that it was kind of tart but sweet, and then it had a bunch of seeds in it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting trying that. That was good, but it was different because there were so many seeds in it. So you scoop it out and you eat it, and you're like, am I supposed to eat the seeds, or am I supposed to spit these out? Because there's about 45 seeds in my mouth right now. He said, no, you got to eat them. So, but that was really good. I mean, we went to each night. We all went to dinner at a different missionary's house.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
So that was cool. So, and it was great the way they did it, because that way there was 7 of us, right? 7 of us. So, well, 8 with Les. With Les, there was 8.
Yeah.
So it didn't put a huge burden on one family the entire time, right? So we would go to, say, Lizzie and Christian's house the one night, and then Axel and his wife's house another night, so on and so forth, until we worked our way around. And then sometimes we were we doubled up, circled back to somebody again. But, they cooked us, each person cooked us something different. And, some of the missionaries are from Germany, like Axel and his wife's from Germany, and some are from the U.S. So you got different cultures there as well, food. So that was nice to just try different things there. And they all had, like you said, the fruit. It seemed like they all had fruit there at the end of the night. And that was nice to be able to fellowship with the missionaries that were there and get to know them as well. And it was nice for them to get to know us, because we're there to help build the hangar for them. So it was a good chance to build relationships and fellowship with each other there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know a few of them had commented after you guys had left how much they appreciate you guys taking the time to have a meal with them and just hear their stories. And it really brings everything full circle. Like, by doing that, it connects your project with the missionaries and with what their job is there in PNG. So it kind of, I love that effect, and I know they just appreciate having you guys around to be able to share with too. So appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Yeah.
Oftentimes we take what we call a middle weekend. We take the weekend, either a Saturday or a Sunday, and we have a break. We get to go to church with them. What did that look like for you guys for a weekend time, a time away, whether you went explored PNG, if you went into the market a little bit, if you got a chance to just relax because you guys were working so much? What did your downtime look like there?
You want to hit that one?
I got sick, so my downtime was dealing with that, and then but for me, we work, and I was just wiped, and we'd go out to a meal, and then I'd be probably out.
Okay.
So
Yeah, like, I know we got to do the church that was right on Wapello Center there, and that was incredible. Everyone's so welcoming, and as these guys said, they've known several of the people and families there, so they're welcoming us just like a family at our own church. We were fortunate to get to go to an EBC church, which is the local church there, and gosh, just the soulfulness that they would be singing with. It was like you were in like 4 church choirs, but it was 3 pews, 4 pews, like just incredibly. They wanted to learn so much, and they'd do it in 2 different languages, Pidgin as their regular language, and then the U.S. one they do, or English they would do for their second service. So we got to go to that, and brought a Bible along, and I was kind of nervous about, should I be handing out Bibles or bringing them in a foreign country? And I asked you guys, should I be doing that? Because one of my friends is in Gideon's, and he was wanting to send me with a whole caseload, So I said, well, I'll just bring one along. And as I was praying about it at the EBC church, I looked over, and there, sure enough, the one lady had the exact one that I had. So, yeah, I brought that up to the pastor. Brooke was his name, after service, and I said, I'm sure you know who needs this the most here. And he was so happy, and I mean, everyone's so heartwarming. And like 2 days, he's like, we've been praying for you guys the whole time, and I've been walking up and down the street there and telling everybody that at their little kiosks they have where they sell their local stuff they make. And he's like, I've been telling everybody what you're there for, and they're keeping an eye on you. And all of a sudden, 2 days later, there he is outside of the fence waving over, asked me, I'm up on the lift. I don't know if you were up there with me or not.
Yes.
Steve, Abadoon.
Very cool. Very cool.
Andy, if I could just share one thing.
Absolutely. Please do.
So I was really intrigued with the impact, or how were these missionaries reaching this different culture? Because there was no written language, and they didn't know the language, and the main I don't know if I even call it religion, but they were dealing with animism, spirit worship. And how do you reach a culture like that? Yeah. And on our last week there, this gentleman came in, and he was there with some other guys. They were with New Tribe Ethnos 360, and so he was sitting out drinking coffee like everybody else. And I said, well, have you been here? He goes, well, yeah, I was out in this tribe, and we came back to finish translating the book of Revelation. And so I started asking questions, and well, tell me your story. He goes, well, I was out there 14 years. And I'm thinking, 14 years? You were there 14 years, why did it take so long, 14 years? And so he started explaining, we had to learn the language, and then there wasn't a written language, so we had to develop that and develop literacy. We had to understand the culture of the tribe, and then also they were sharing about, they were spirit worshiping, and how do you go about sharing the gospel about that, and how do you share about Jesus as the lamb when they don't even know what a lamb is? They've never seen one, because there were no sheep in Papua New Guinea. And so he's sharing this with me, and he goes, well, this one day, we had been sharing stories, and they said, well, we believe that we come from, either we're from the tree, that's who made us, or we come from this alligator or this particular animal, but we don't know where the tree or the alligator came from. And we want to know if you can tell us who made that. And that just opened up the doors for him and the other missionaries to begin sharing about God. And so they, instead of going right to the gospel, they started in Genesis with God as the creator. And then from there, they moved there. And by the time they got to the end of the Old Testament, the tribal leaders said, you've told us that there's this problem we've been seeing in all these stories you've been telling us, that that we have this problem with this creator, and that's sin, and something's got to deal with it. And we've heard you talk about this Jesus, and based on the stories you've told us in the Old Testament, we think you're going to tell us that this Jesus has something to do with taking care of this price to pay for this sin. And then that led into the gospel. And so I asked him, well, after 14 years, what was it like? I mean, did you start a church? He goes, yeah, we started a church. When we left, there was a church of 50 people, and we had established elders, and we felt like it was time to leave. And we come back 2 or 3 times a year to teach the elders and the church and see how they're doing. And that was at that time it was 4 years ago. I go, well, how big's the church now? He goes, 2,000.
Wow.
I go, 2,000? He goes, well, the church got so excited for the gospel that they wanted to go to the other villages. And so they would hike over these mountains because there's no roads or anything. They would hike over these mountains to go to the other villages to share the gospel with them. And that was just, for me, that was the highlight of the trip, is God, how God is at work in this other culture. And that really impacted me.
How about you guys?
That's great. Well, the one thing to elaborate just a little bit or add a little bit of depth in, so Papua New Guinea has a ton of languages. So when Tom said they had to go out and learn the language, it's not like when you go out to one village and learn the language, now you have the language of the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
I think they said there's over 800 different languages in Papua New Guinea and PNG, which is incredible. Right, so every time that a missionary goes out, so these missionaries might go to this village and they have to learn the tribal language over there, and then these missionaries go over here and they learn the tribal language over there. They may have some similarities, but they're not the same. So they're each learning their own languages and having to translate the Bible into those particular languages. It's not easy, and man, God bless the missionaries that can go do that, because I'm not a guy that really picks up different languages very easy. So I have a lot of respect for those people that can go out and do that. A lot of respect for that. Was it Sundays?
Yep.
Sundays after church. After church, they had sports. So they had a soccer field, and a bunch of us went down and played soccer. And I'll tell you what, for being out in the middle of nowhere, those people were good at soccer.
Oh, yeah.
Really good at soccer. They had hockey. They had roller hockey in the gym there. And Joel went and played roller hockey every Sunday.
Okay.
Had fun doing that since he ice skates up there in Canada. And the one time, the church that we went to, the EBC church that you said, oh my gosh. The pastor there that taught that English service there, he did a fantastic job. We all walked out of there and we all said, man, that guy is awesome. He's amazing. It was nice because he was to the point. There was no sugarcoating what he was teaching. It was to the point, and this is the way it is, and I like that. I like that kind of teaching. And so then after that we went to where was that place we went where we took a hike, and there was the pool there. Remember that?
I didn't go.
You weren't there?
That was
with Jeff and Brian.
Yeah, that was kind of like a thank you for us coming there. And I think that was a Swedish, where the Swedes had, or the Norwegians
it was nice.
Had a colony back there. Yeah, I mean, just the ride going back there. It's like, I don't know if the wheels on the van are big enough for this.
I know, right?
I see these roads just completely washed out all the way down a valley side. And but then everybody, though, that would see us coming in those vans, waving and saying hi on the side of the road. And I mean, it was such a blessing, to be even a part of it. Yeah.
Did you guys get a chance to go to the market at all?
Yeah, we went to the market. That was a lot of fun to see all the Beelum bags. The Beelum bags. So everyone has a Beelum bag that you put over, and then you put all your stuff in and carry it along. And the lady one of the ladies there at the guest house, she was selling Beelum bags. So I think you bought one, maybe a Beelum bag there. So there's an entire wall, like a fence, and everyone hangs their Beelum bags there. Different colors, just real colorful, real cool. So they sell their Beelum bags. They sell their tribbits. I don't know if we all bought tribbits or not, but they have baskets, and the shops that people make this stuff for. And the one part was they had a basket there, a weaved basket that they weaved together out of bamboo or whatever it was, but it was a decent size, and I never really thought about it, but we were looking at it, and the one guy said, so this would have been what the basket that Moses would have been in when he was in the Nile, when his mom put him in the Nile River to hide him. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool, to actually see it in person like that. So I like that part,
When I was at the Vila Mall with these guys, the thing that struck me the hardest was that, like you said, there was a whole entire road full of everyone's selling the same thing, and they're all trying to bring the price down just so that they, you'd buy their stuff. And I just wish we could all buy one from every single one of them.
Yeah.
The men do a lot of I'm a wood carver as well, and the men over there do this bamboo carvings of every guy from his own little village. One's alligators, one's sharks, whatever. They all have, and especially chickens and pigs, but they all have their own insignia through that. That's kind of their own symbol. So to get like these boxes that tell a whole story around them and stuff, that's what I got to bring back. And coffee, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Tom, I want to circle back on something you had mentioned a little bit ago, and then I'm going to come back to you guys and have you kind of answer. I think you mentioned something really neat that we want to share, the impact not just from the project side, but from the spiritual side. I've experienced it. I know you guys must have experienced it too. And you touched about it on a little bit too, Tom. Walking away from this, project aside, and great job, guys, for getting it done. When you left, everything was up except the hangar door, which was being shipped separately in from Canada. But what an amazing God-sized project he worked through you guys. From a spiritual side, how do you walk away now, Tom, and reflect on that impact of the trip?
Well, I think it's just what you said. It was a God-sized project. And when we got there, I think the expectations were that we would get the frame up, and they would have been thrilled with that. And I think for myself, and I've taken this back to my own job with me this year, is on a daily basis, I commit to God, Lord, I need to get this part done here today. Would you please help me? Give me wisdom on that. And that's what we did on this trip is, Lord, we need wisdom and skill. We commit to our plans here today. And so it was an immense project. I think the people who supported me on this trip, when I told them about it, they're like, oh my gosh, there's no way you guys are going to do that. And God, and it was the weather, everything, it was just a God thing. So I took that away from it. But as I mentioned in that story I shared with you, I was just impacted with how the gospel goes across cultures. And even though they are dealing with the language and the culture and spiritism, God made a way for these people to, he put eternity in their hearts, and they were yearning for truth. And these missionaries, 14 years, their diligence and the sacrifices that these families make, because they're taking their children with them, and some of the children have some learning problems, and the moms have to really work for that. I was just awestruck how God uses and these missionaries' commitment to the gospel and willing to sacrifice, but at the same sacrifice their desires and dreams for the sake of the gospel, but also be committed to protecting and caring for their families. I was really moved by that.
Yeah. Darren, how about you? This isn't your first trip, but I know you walk away from each trip feeling that God led you into something. So how about P&G?
Yeah, so I love in the morning. Well, in each trip I went to, we have our time together in the Bible, right? In West Africa, it was during lunchtime. I think in Uganda, it was during lunchtime. To this particular trip, we started in the morning, and it was just a great time for me to start the morning and the day with that fellowship time with these guys, reading the Bible, but also sharing stories as we read the Bible. We were laughing together and we were crying together, in the morning, and that just bringing the guys together and help. It always helps. We're not meant to be alone, right? We're meant to have other believers around us to help encourage us. in our day and with the things that are going on in our lives. And that was just a great time in the morning to help with that for me, at least. And then, like Tom said, to see. So I didn't really know much about what the missionaries that we were going to help, what they did, exactly what they did. So to get over there and see that and see how much work they had to put in to be able to share the gospel with the people that they're going out to was so eye-opening to me. It made me feel small, in the way that I share my gospel as compared to the way they do it. And, open my eyes and say, hey, Darren, you can do a better job. Look at these guys and see what they're doing. I should be able to do a better job too. So that really impacted me.
Good. Steve, how did you feel God moved you on this trip?
The most important thing for me was that, and he moved me the most in just giving full control to him and full trust to him. I was a nervous wreck going over there, and first time I'm out of the country like that. But every time that I thought there was going to be some big blocking point, no, he came through big time. I mean, especially the strapping. Remember all
yeah.
Like we're on an island where and maybe I kind of grew up with living that way, but when we all of a sudden needed like 2,000 feet of strapping to get all the trusses tied together,
kind of like
we're short. Yeah, and Brian leaves, and 2 hours later he comes back with a boat, well, even more than what we needed, because God knew we needed it for the sidewalls too, and we didn't even know that. That was like 4 more pages down in the print. So that was the humbling part to me, is just how much the people over there want to do work and take care of themselves, but they don't have the infrastructure for it. They don't have the support, and they all walking by every day watching our progress and waving and thanking us and stuff. And we're, like Darren said, we're just the smallest amount of it. Definitely put you in your spot. Humbling to know nobody's in.
Yeah. Did you guys experience any reverse cultural shock when you got back to the States? Just the realization that you're back in America, the Home Depot's right around the corner, that type of thing?
I'll answer first here this time. Like every time I see like nieces and nephews or friends like across from each other, just texting on their phones and stuff, and whether it was Christmas or even before that, it's like, oh, you guys just put that down and be a family, talk, like get back to how things used to be.
Good.
I mean, it's always eye-opening when you go to a country like that, a third world country like that, and see what they have, what they don't have, and it really makes you appreciate the things that you do have. But also, there's times, just like Steve said, that you look at and you're like, man, I kind of wish we didn't have some of the things we had. So it was more simple.
Yeah.
They have a much simpler life, and they're still happy, about it. And it really makes you think.
We get upset when the internet takes too long to fetch our emails.
Right.
And they're just happy getting emails once a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, how about you? This was your first time kind of cultural immersion and then back to the States.
I think the same as Darren. So I got back, and when I started getting back into with customers or whatnot, and they want all this stuff taken care of in their homes for their the projects I was doing, and I was for me the difficulty was, do you really need that? And just like what you were saying, life was so much simpler when we were around the people there.
Yeah, you see the stuff they have. I mean, they're living in grass huts or huts with, scrap pieces of tin for roofs or siding, if they could even find that. Most of the time, it's just grass huts thatched together, simple dirt floors, and their biggest smiles every time you see them. You wave to them, they're like, hey, huge smiles.
Yeah.
It definitely makes you want to go back and bring all your friends.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Tom, let me ask you, if someone you were a first time traveler with us, first time on short term mission trip. If this this episode is for those listening that may be on the fence, may not be sure if they want to attempt to go on a short term missions trip. You have Darren, who this trip seemed like it fit him because of his steel worker. You have Steve here as kind of the jack of all trades. You have yourself familiar with some framing. But what if there's someone at home that's like, man, I can resonate with some of their stories, but I just don't know if that's something for me. What would you say to them?
What I would say is, so I'm in a group. I lead a study with some of these young men. And right now, these young men they really want to experience God in their lives. And do I believe that what I believe is really real? Mm. And I think by taking that step of faith and doing a mission trip, one, there's some vulnerability there. Two, how am I going to raise that money? And how am I going, what about my health? What happens if I get sick? And there's all these what ifs. And one of the things I think for myself that I experienced, because I did get sick, and and I didn't have that kind of money to pay that outright. I needed to raise support. Is that I got to see God provide for that. I got to see God provide healing for me from a minor illness that I had there, and stomach or whatnot. Mm-hmm. I got to experience. I didn't know anybody there other than this missionary family, but I wasn't staying with them. I was staying with a bunch of other guys, and God just kind of allowed us to. I would say from day one there was a camaraderie right away of. And we just really gelled together, especially on that first day on the job. Everybody kind of clicked and got to know each other, and it was like we'd been together for several weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah.
Darren, how about you? What would you tell someone that is considering going out on their first time short-term mission trip?
Well, if you're thinking about it and you're not sure, first of all, pray about it, right? Always give it to God. You pray about it first. And you got to remember, you don't have to have an exceptional set of skills, because, we have guys that had construction knowledge on this trip. But we also had guys like Tice who, like you said, was an accountant, maybe not had as much construction skills, mm-hmm. but Tice was such a huge help to me when we were setting the building. I was up on the scaffolding, that was, 20 or 25 foot tall. And he was helping me. He was running the tow motor, putting the tow motor of the guys in the basket up and down, getting tools for us, laying stuff out for us. If he wasn't there, it would have made my job 100 times harder, because I would have been climbing up the scaffolding, doing what I had to do, climbing down the scaffolding, moving it, climbing back up the scaffolding, doing it again. I would have been up and down there 1,000 times a day, in a day. And he was just such a huge help and a blessing to have there. So it doesn't matter if you have the skills that you think you need, you can be helpful in any way, if to go and help on a trip. So don't let that get in your way at all. That's not an obstacle. It's definitely not an obstacle for God. When you think of it from His perspective, He will use you in ways that you have no clue on how He's going to use you. So, but yeah, and then as far as raising the money, just put feelers out there if you think you're going to go on a trip, and just tell people, hey, I'm thinking about going on a trip, and would you be interested in helping to support me if I go on this particular trip? Different things like that, and then you'll get an idea and watch how God works.
Yeah, that's good. Steve, how about you? First time international, from domestic desire to calling me up and saying, I'm going to Papua New Guinea. What would you tell somebody that may have been on the fence like you were?
Like
Man up and do it, right?
Yeah, just pray it up, like you guys said it so many times. Yeah, try to pray up on everything about the anxiety that the Lord's going to handle for you, and to put all that aside, and really just to dive into it. Trust the Lord, through it all, because He'll get you through it all.
Good. Well, we're going to wrap up here. It's been a joy to have each of you here as part of this team and to speak into it. And Steve, I appreciate you taking the time to travel from Wisconsin for one day to leave tomorrow again. But you get to meet our staff and get to see the headquarters here. So I appreciate you coming in.
It was great to be here, but I have to get back to my maple syrup making.
That's right. That's a whole nother podcast, right? Maybe we'll shoot that one from out of your place when I come visit.
Maybe, but bring your own internet.
So as we wrap up, is there anything that maybe we didn't cover or I didn't ask that's on your heart today, just to share with the audience? Steve?
As if you're an audience member that's part of a church community, do your best to support younger people, men, women, older people. Encourage people that there is something out there for them to live and grow in, especially the youth that are stumbling. Not every job can be a computer job. Not everyone can be a minister. There's a good portion in the middle.
Darren, how about you? Any last words?
Don't limit God. Don't limit Him. Let Him show you what He has available for you, but at the end of the day, you got to take the step, right? Because we have our own free will. So take that step, take the next step after that, and see what He has in store for you. Don't be afraid.
Good. Tom?
It's been a year since I saw these guys, but I feel like we were just in Brisbane this morning waiting to get on our plane. If you do one of these trips, I think that you build lasting relationships. And the memories are just outstanding. They'll be with you the rest of your life.
Good. Well, thank you again, guys. To our listeners, if you've been watching our podcast for some time, or if you're just joining us for this season, and you feel that God may be speaking to your heart, or putting a desire to you to explore a skill that He's blessed you with in short-term missions, you can find more information out on our website at fiaintl.org. You can also find us on all the social media platforms, Facebook and Instagram, and also on our YouTube channel. There's a lot of good videos there from teams that have went out. You'll also see opportunities to hear more of our podcast from our staff and their God journey as well. It's an interesting story here, how we can tie in support projects to sharing the gospel. From an aviation hangar, if you've tried to associate that with, well, what does that mean about accelerating gospel? I hope you walk away today realizing that this aviation hangar equips NTM, PNG Aviation to be able to support missionary pilots to get the good news out, to get missionaries out into the bush, to be able to supply them with the supplies they need to accelerate the gospel. So it doesn't matter if you're flying an airplane or preaching the gospel in front of a group or driving some bolts in a pre-engineered building to support that. Or maybe you're laying tile or installing some masonry alongside nationals in some of the hard-to-reach places. Your skill is God-given, and He wants you to use that until all have heard. Thanks for joining us.